Okay, I'm going to go through the review problems for the units conversion quiz. So here is just, I really recommend that you look at this, that you watch this video. It's very short. It's on the chapter 1 subpage together with this. So I would look at that video because it doesn't take very long. I would work the problems using that method because then you can get 100% right instead of 80 or 90% right. Okay, there's not that many problems on the quiz. There's not that many problems on the IB test. Do them the long way or the way that you don't have to think too much. Okay, so watch that video and do it that way. Okay, and I'll show you how to do a couple of those here too. Okay, so where you're going to get mixed up on these is which one is 1,000, which one is 1. You have to kind of get a feeling for it. Unfortunately, it's easy to make a mistake on these if you're not paying attention. Okay, this one's kind of tricky, centimeters and millimeters, but I mean, that's one of the measurements that we have the most experience with, so try to keep that in mind. Most everything is in units of 1,000 and 1. So, you know, the only exception is centimeters, which, you know, we're really accustomed to using, but centi isn't used for anything except for meters, right? 7 days in a week, that's easy. 365 days in a year, that's easy, right? 24 hours in a day. 1 minute equals 60 seconds. 1 hour equals 60 minutes. 1 second equals 1,000 milliseconds. Milli is 1,000, just like 1 meter is equal to 1,000 millimeters. Okay, so it's kind of the same as that. All right, okay. Again, this is the same YouTube video that I recommend that you watch. Okay, so how many seconds in a year? We're going to calculate this using the method that is described in the YouTube video. So first, we're going to try to get something that has years in it, which we know is 365 days in a year, so we'll put that here. And then here we'll put something with days in it in the bottom. So like 1 day equals 24 hours is pretty much the only one we know, right? So days goes in the bottom to cancel out the days here. Okay, there's days here. Put 1 day in the bottom. On top we're going to put 24 hours. Okay. Next to that we're going to get rid of the hours. So we know that 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. So we're going to put 1 hour in the bottom and 60 minutes on top. And then minutes, we know 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds, so we're going to put 1 minute on the bottom and 60 seconds on top. Okay, so we didn't need to think about too much about what goes on top and what's on the bottom because we're always just canceling out what we started with and everything just works out, right? So the answer is something seconds. I'm going to multiply it out on my calculator. Okay. 365 times 24 times 60 times 60. And I know that if you kind of get that, I'm going to put it here because it's kind of big. You know, if you kind of have an intuition for what's bigger and what's smaller, you're going to do that in your head, or just say it out loud while you're doing your do it in your calculator, and that's fine. But the problem is when you get to like currency, it's really hard to have a good intuition about what's bigger and what's smaller because, you know, depending on the time, the money is worth more or less. So, okay. All right, let's move on. How many milligrams in 1,000 kilograms? Well, we're going to put kilograms on the bottom and grams on the top because kilograms is here. Okay, but what is the relationship we're going to use? We're going to use 1,000 grams equals 1 kilogram. So here we put 1,000. And here we're going to use the relationship 1 gram is equal to 1,000 milligrams. And then we'll put grams on the bottom and we'll put 1,000 milligrams on top. And we cancel out the grams. And so we get 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000. Well, that's the same thing as saying 1 times 10 to the 9th. And the units are milligrams. Okay? And here, how many kilograms in 3 milligrams? Okay. Now this is a tricky one, right? Because it's not you can't really do this one with intuition. So we're going to use the relationship again, 1,000 milligrams is a gram, and we're going to put 1,000 milligrams on the bottom, and we're going to put 1 gram on top. Okay, and then we're still trying to convert to kilograms, so we're going to take this one. On the bottom we need to put 1,000 grams to cancel out, and 1 kilogram on top. Cancel out the G's, cancel out the mg's, and now we're left with 1 kilogram, well actually 3 on top, divided by 1,000 divided by 1,000. So we have 3 times 10 to the minus 6th kilograms. Okay, so that's really small. It's 0.000003 kilograms is 3 milligrams. Okay. So here's a currency conversion problem. So the exchange rate for Japanese yen is 97 Japan yen buy and 98 Japan yen sell. And what that means is if I have dollars and I'm going to buy Japan yen, then I would use that rate. And if I have Japan yen and I'm going to sell it to get dollars, I'm going to use that rate. So it's always in reference to dollars, even though they never mention dollars. Now the Brazilian exchange rate is a lot more complicated. They have, in addition to sell and buy, they also have dollar comercial and dollar turismo. So the tourist dollar is of course a terrible rate because it's for tourists, and the commercial rate is for banks, so it's good. So okay, so if you can see, the spread between the commercial buy and the commercial sell is like very close. They're both 220. There's just like a few thousandths of a cent that are different, okay? But in the turismo dollar, you can see that there's a huge difference. It's like a couple dimes for every transaction. So let's see how that hurts you, okay? So the problem is Mr. Tsubaki travels from Japan to Brazil. He brings 20,000 Japanese yen. First he stops in Chicago and changes the money to US dollars. How much does he get? So you start out with, you write down what you know, 20,000 Japan yen. And then you're going to multiply it by an expression which is relating Japan yen to US dollars, which we know from up here, it's that one, okay? 1 US dollar is equal to 98 Japanese yen in the case that you are selling Japanese yen. In this case, we started with 20,000 Japanese yen. We're going to sell it to get dollars, so it's a sell. So we're going to use that rate. And we put Japan yen on the bottom because we have Japan yen on the top here, and we're going to cancel that out. And then we just multiplied that out with our calculator, and we get $204.08. That's what he gets in Chicago in dollars. When he arrives in Rio de Janeiro, he exchanges those dollars for Brazilian real. What exchange rate does he use? Now, of course, he's going to use turismo because he's just a regular person. And then he's going to use compra because he's going to buy Brazilian reais with dollars. So this is like, you're going to buy Brazilian reais, then you pay that one. So the rate is 2.13, okay? So the answer would be 2.13, okay? All right, now let's actually, how many real does he get? So you start out with 204.08, and then you're going to multiply it times an expression that is equivalent on top and bottom. So the exchange rate is 2.13. Let's see, it's 2.13. It's 2.13 reais is equal to 1 US dollar when you are buying reais. So 2.13 and 1 US dollar. So that's what we do. We put 2.13 reais on top. We put US dollars 1 on the bottom. And we know US dollars goes on the bottom because US dollars is on the bottom here. Cancel out. We multiply it out and we get 434.69 reais is the answer. Okay, so how many real does he get? He gets 434.69. Considering the bank exchange rate is about 220 reais per $1, if we go back and look at it, we can see that in either direction it's pretty much 2.20, right? It's right here, this one. Okay, and then how much less money in real did he receive than if he was a bank? Okay, so you start out with 204 $2.08, and you're going to multiply it times the exchange rate if he was a bank. So that is 220 reais over $1. Okay, and then when you multiply that, you get 448 reais with 98 cents. Okay, and then now we're just going to figure out how much less money he got in real than if he was a tourist. So when he's a bank, he could get 448.98 for that $204.08. Now, if he's a normal person, then he can only get 434.69. Okay, so we're going to subtract those to see what the difference is, and the answer is 14.29. Okay, so that is equivalent to what percent commission? Well, we'll put 14.29 on the top because that's the amount that we're losing. Okay, and on the bottom we'll put like the ideal amount of reais we would get, if we were a bank, and that would be 448.98. We'll use that instead of using the 434.69 because like the bank is getting like the true exchange rate, the tourist is getting an exchange rate which is charging a commission. So we're seeing like how much the commission is on top of the true exchange rate, and if we divide that on our calculator, it's 0.0318, which is 3.18%. Okay, so that is if we think of the dólar turismo and the spread that it has here, we could think of it as a commission because it's kind of included. It's their way of charging a commission, and then the commission in this case would be 3.18%. Okay. Last problem. If we're going to use this exchange rate, that $1 is equal to 211 reais. Okay. So this problem says in Brazil it is uncommon to use 1 centavo coins. Usually the smallest coin is 5 centavos. If you change $580 and money changer A does not have 1 centavo coins, how much would you receive in real? He rounds down, of course. Okay, so we're just going to convert $5.80 and multiply it times 2.11 reais over $1. We know that $1 goes on the bottom because we're going to cancel out the dollars with dollars and we're left with reais, right? And on the top, we're just going to multiply it 5.80 times 2.11 and we get 12.238. Okay, I left the 238 here because I want to remind you that the IB expects their financial amounts expressed with 2 decimal places. So the 0.238 is going to change to 0.24. Okay, and in this case, money changer A does not have 1 centavo coins. So how much would you receive in real? He's going to give you 5 centavos coins, and he rounds down. So if it's 12.24, he's going to round down, and he's going to give you 12.20 because that's the nearest multiple of 5, right? Okay, so the answer is 12.20 for that. If you found a money changer E that rounds to the nearest 1 centavo coin, how much would he give you for 580? Well, then he would give you 12.238. He would round up because he rounds to the nearest 1 centavo, and he would give you 12.24. Okay, which we already calculated up there. What is the absolute relative and percentage error between money changer A approximate and money changer E exact? Well, 12.24 times 12.20, we're going to just take the difference of those two, is 0.04, and since we were lucky enough to get a positive number, we don't even need to take the absolute value, but if it was a negative 0.04, we would take the absolute value to get 0.04. Remember, absolute error, you always take the absolute value. And for the relative error and percentage error, you're using the absolute error as a base, so if absolute error is always positive, so is relative error, so is percent error. Okay, so to get relative error, you take the absolute error and you divide by 12.24, which is the exact value, right? And then we get 0.00327. Now we get the percentage error. The way we do that is we just simply multiply the relative error times 100 and we add a percent sign. So that's why we just move the decimal place over a couple places. You can do that with your calculator too, and we get 0.327%. Okay, so if you can do these problems, I think you're in good shape for the test because I think these are more on the challenging side. Okay, in addition to doing worksheets 28 to 30, you also need to have that done to be ready for the test. If you have any questions, please ask tomorrow.